you've been watching the Philadelphia 76ers this season, you've likely noticed a few things about them. The breakout year of Tyrese Maxey, the continuous dominance of Joel Embiid in the regular season, the increased involvement of Tobias Harris in the offense, or the team's increased help with the addition of Kelly Oubre to provide them with even more scoring. Both this, combined with their wing defenders such as Robert Covington, Paul Reed, and Daniel House Jr., have pushed them to being a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense. A big positive for them is the fact that they haven't necessarily regressed after trading James Harden, and they've increased their bench depth to help support that. This has been a testament to their new head coach, Nick Nurse, who's transformed their offense from less stagnant to more free-flowing. His system hasn't come at the cost of Embiid because he's still having an MVP caliber season, and he's on track to winning his 3rd scoring title in a row. I think this system helps them if Embiid does happen to struggle in the playoffs, as we've seen over the last couple of years. Nurse has gotten other players more involved to increase their scoring opportunities, and he's done this by bringing Embiid more out to the perimeter, rather than him posting up and receiving the ball, setting screens and rolling, and even fading out to the 3-point line. There's been a large increase of dribble handoff plays, particularly between Embiid and Maxey, which works out really well since Maxey plays well off the ball and can run around screens to get wide open. So you'll often see him go around Embiid, receive the DHO, and then he'll decide whether to shoot, drive, or get the ball to another teammate. Embiid will do this with others like Tobias Harris and DeAnthony Melton, and this largely benefits them by splitting up the defense and getting them to constantly move, leading them to capitalize on that movement with backdoor cuts. They'll also mix it up with plays with Embiid near the block, and he'll just kind of patiently wait there for them to get someone wide open. Overall, the duo of Maxey and Embiid has been very impressive, actually much better than I had expected, and the pick and rolls, along with the fake handoffs, has made it somewhat easier for Embiid to be even more dominant. Kelly Oubre Jr. has also been a nice addition to the team, and it looks like he'll be back on the court sooner than expected, so I'm glad that he's been doing well after the incident that caused his injury. He was honestly a steal for the Sixers, who picked him up for the minimum after he wasn't getting much to really any attention in free agency, and throughout his first 8 games with them, he's averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and 37% from 3. He's a guy that can start for them at times, but can also operate as a spark plug off the bench, especially when this team is dead last in bench scoring with only 23 points a game. His ability to self-create for this bench that doesn't have many scorers can be very valuable if Embiid and Maxey are off the floor. This new system and playmaking leap by Embiid benefits the Sixers, as last year when Embiid were to post up, finding scoring options was much more difficult with a slower and more restricted offense, mainly relying on the pick and roll of Embiid and Harden. And it's not as if that wasn't effective, they were still a very good offense, but when it comes to the playoffs and teams have a 7-game series to lock in on your playstyles, they need a more dynamic way to score. So far this season, the way they largely score is by the free throw line. They attempt 28 free throws a game, which is the most in the league, and they shoot it at the best percentage of 85%. They're a good rebounding team, so they're top 10 in second chance points, which is better than last year when they were the 3rd worst, and they run the break well, as they're tied for the most points off fast breaks, which they've also improved from last year. They've also cut down on their isolation possessions, which we know a lot of those came from Harden and Embiid last year, so you can see the improved ball movement going on in Philadelphia. Last year, both Harden and Embiid combined for 12.8 isolation possessions a game, which was basically all of their isolation possessions, and they were second right behind the Mavericks. Now the team combines for 9.2, and this decrease has led to their increase in their handoff possessions significantly from only about 3 a game, which was the 29th last year, to now they average about 7 a game, which is the 3rd most this year, and they've been extremely efficient from that point of offense. There have been some talks over social media about them getting another star like a Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan, since the Bulls are likely breaking the team up after a disappointing start. I'm personally not too keen on this trade, especially with the sudden jump of Tyrese Maxey. I'm afraid that them getting a ball-dominant player onto the team will somewhat limit his growth this season, and I think he needs this full year to fully break out. I also think this applies for the Nets with Cam Thomas. He should have this year to fully develop into the elite scorer that he is. Now, players that they could consider are guys like an OG Anunoby or an Alex Caruso, two elite lockdown defenders that can stretch the floor on the offensive end and relieve some of the defensive pressure Maxey has on other guards. I still question whether they'll play up to standard in the playoffs, which I don't think you can blame me for. I unfortunately fell for the Sixers getting past the second round trap, but you seriously can't blame me. I mean, they're up 3-2, and yeah, I know they're coached by Doc Rivers, who has a history of blowing leads in the playoffs, and James Harden has a history of dropping off in the playoffs, and Embiid has a history of dropping off in the playoffs. But you can't blame me. I really did think that they had a very good opportunity to finally get over that hump, and they were even able to win without Embiid in Game 1, thanks to James Harden's 45-point performance. But once they lost in Game 6, I knew it was over. I believe that Nick Nurse will provide the necessary adjustments to prevent something like that from repeating again. So let me know down below what you think of the current Sixers, and if you think that they need to make any moves to become clear-cut contenders in not just the East, but the entire NBA. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.